Well, good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson this morning with the weather desk. This is our daily top weather headlines from Hampton Roads, Virginia, which is southeastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina, including the Outer Banks, across the country and really across the world. I talk about everything from the tropics to wildfires, also watching for some fall weather to grace a lot of the east coast of the U.S. for us this week. So let's talk about what we're talking about for the weather desk. We are tracking the tropics today. We have a new named storm that developed over the weekend. Also watching for the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina that is this week. Katrina formed as a tropical storm this past couple of days, 20 years ago. So we'll talk about Katrina as well. On the opposite side of things, going from water to fire, I'm tracking wildfires blazing across parts of the U.S. and a new volcanic eruption that is going on at Mount Kilauea there in Hawaii. This mountain has been erupting since Christmas time of last year. So getting some new updates on that. Plus, I'm also watching for that fall feeling like fall later on this week as our cold front is now very close to us here in Hampton Roads and northeast North Carolina, places around the Great Lakes into the Mid-South already getting in on the fall feels. Well, it's been a few days since Hurricane Erin brought some strong winds, heavy rain and flooding to the East Coast, including southeastern Virginia and the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Here's how the tropics are looking at the moment. And right now, I am tracking Tropical Storm Ferdinand. Remember, parts of NC-12 are still closed at this moment around Ocracoke Island. Heavy overwash damaged parts of the road and breach dunes nearby. NCDOT crews have been working throughout the weekend to shore up those dunes and clear the road. Meanwhile, NC-12 at Hatteras Island and Pea Island are now open and passable. On Friday, after Erin passed, North Carolina Governor Josh Stein spoke about plans to mitigate future issues on NC-12.
We know we need to have long-term solutions. There are groups that have been formed to look at them and come up with proposals to the Department of Transportation, and we want to work with the community to make sure that we keep folks connected.
Again, while parts of NC-12 are still closed on Ocracoke Island, the roadways back open at Hatteras Island and Pea Island. Now, of course, we are tracking the newest named storm here. This is our 6th named storm of the hurricane season. This is Tropical Storm Ferdinand. Erin is a name of the past, even though we are still dealing with the impacts from Erin that are ongoing here in Hampton Roads in northeast North Carolina. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Ferdinand is a very weak tropical storm. I was honestly surprised when they named it over the weekend because it didn't even look tropical in nature. It was struggling over the weekend. Right now, Ferdinand is moving north-northeast at 12 miles per hour, winds of 50 miles per hour at the moment, gusts up to 65. Forecast to not gain any more strength as it heads towards the extreme northern Atlantic, and within the next 24 to 48 hours, this will be a name of the past as well, going in with the rest of the names we've already said goodbye to right now. Ferdinand is struggling. You can see a lot of that activity skewed to the eastern side of that low pressure system. Right now, east-northeast of Bermuda, which is right about here. No impacts to land for this tropical storm. To the south, I'm watching a low pressure system, a tropical wave that traversed all the way from Africa, looked very healthy around Africa, and then lost a lot of steam in the central Atlantic, now in the Caribbean. And with the 8 a.m. update, the Hurricane Center says this chance for development of Invest 99L is over. But gusty winds, maybe a few isolated showers still possible for the southern parts of the Lesser Antilles Islands, but that's the only thing we're watching on top of Ferdinand this morning. So the tropics will become fairly quiet as we head into the midweek this week. Now, tracking the tropical activity from 1944 to 2020 on average for storms per day over the past basically 100 years, you'll notice that peak hurricane season is in about 2 to 2.5 weeks on September it's 10th. Where are we right now? Well, today is August the 25th. And so we're really starting to ramp up in terms of what we should typically see for this time of year. When we get into late summer, into early fall, that's actually when the water temperatures are the warmest. That's because the water temperatures take much longer to heat up compared to land temperatures. And so even though while our land temperatures start to fall in late August, on average start to fall in late August into early September, we actually see the ocean temperatures being the warmest in late August through mid-September. And so right now we are reaching the peak of hurricane season, but we still have a long ways to go. Hurricane season doesn't end until November the 30th, so we still have to continue to be vigilant while watching the tropics. But good news is nothing going to be impacting the U.S. at any point over the next at least 2 to 3 days. And so here are the names we've already been through in the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. We've been through our A name, B name. Chantal actually made landfall in the Carolinas earlier this year. We had Dexter that replaced Dorian from 2019. If you remember, Dorian was a Cat 5 hurricane that really decimated the Bahamas. So Dexter was a new name, just a tropical storm from A to D. Now Aaron was our only hurricane of the 2025 season so far, and the only major hurricane so far, and it made it to a Cat 5 status over that part of the weekend, where Aaron rapidly intensified from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane in the span of about a day. So Aaron was our hurricane, and that was now a name of the past as late last week, it moved out into the open waters and never made landfall. Aaron's one of the only Category 5 hurricanes to never make landfall. We really dodged a bullet, especially around the Outer Banks, even though we're still seeing some cleanup efforts around NC-12 today. Again, Fernan is our newest storm, still active in the tropics, there to the east-northeast of the Bermuda Island, and right now, still a tropical storm, not forecast to reach hurricane strength at all. But you can see we have a lot of names to go through. Gabrielle is our next name, and for some people who are wondering, why are we saying names in Spanish, or they have French kind of dialects or French origins and Spanish origins, unlike, the typical, what we think in America, English origins? It's because these names are taken from the World Meteorological Organization and their set names, but they try to be inclusive to include all of the islands around the Caribbean and into the Gulf that do use Spanish and French as their primary languages. So we have Gabrielle, but this is not pronounced Umberto, this is Umberto. So that is gonna be our next Spanish name on the list. Imelda also on the list, Lorenzo. So it's very inclusive for this naming system, but we've been through 6 names. Of course, we have a lot to go. If we run out of names, which looks unlikely for this particular hurricane season, then we do have an alternate name of a list that the World Meteorological Organization actually has on standby. So we don't get to pick the names, it's already in the playbook for us. But we are seeing the potential for this coming through. Hurricane Andrew was also something that we were watching for as well, that just was something that came through about 30 years plus ago, that happened back then and went as a Category 5 through Miami. Katrina we'll talk about in just a little bit after we get through just looking through these names. Now, for the latest on the tropics updates, check out Hurricane Hub Live on 13 News Now Plus every night at 8 p.m. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandagis will take you a little bit closer into what's happening in the Atlantic and the Pacific. Just download the app to your TV and to watch for free. Now, we're going to skip and go into something completely different. We're going to go over and talk about wildfires, going from water to fire. Here's a look at the active wildfires, and across the country, intense heat is kicking off this week in this new work week. The scorching temperatures and dry conditions are fueling fires that are threatening thousands of homes. The conditions are also kicking up massive dust storms. ABC's Rhiannon Nally has the details.
Extreme weather in the west, a massive dust storm tearing through the Burning Man Festival in the Nevada desert, destroying campsites, injuring 4 people. Winds up to 50 miles per hour kicking up so much dust, people not able to see beyond a foot in front of them. Farther west, hot and dry conditions fueling dangerous wildfires. The so-called picket fire is burning through Northern California's wine country, scorching more than 6,800 acres. Officials declaring an emergency in Napa County, many residents forced to evacuate, others racing to protect their property.
That's our hose line. That's my own that I purchased so I can defend the house.
The windy conditions challenging firefighters. The blaze only 11% contained as of last night.
The winds are starting to pick up. The temperatures are getting a lot warmer. That humidity is in turn going down. I would say the biggest issue has been the wind.
The heat is not expected to break for days. From Arizona to Washington, 30 million Americans are under alert for dangerous temperatures. 20 degrees higher than normal in some areas. Triple digits are expected in Oregon, where the flat fire has exploded to nearly 22,000 acres, destroying at least 4 homes, threatening thousands more. Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
And again, wildfires remain a concern here across the U.S. And so let's take a look at where these wildfires are now. We're going to go from west to east. And as you get into places like northern Idaho, into Montana, multiple wildfires there near Missoula and east of Lewiston, also north and west of Cascade. Now, into parts of California, a few of those wildfires burning to the east of Fresno. But good news is Southern California doing okay at the moment. A few active wildfires across the desert Southwest into the Rocky Mountains. We're okay in the midsection of the country, but then as you head just to the east of I-35, and I-35 stretches right about here. This is where you're seeing a lot of this wildfire activity there in the mid-south into the east. And so anywhere from Houston up into parts of Louisiana, Memphis, Tennessee, through western Tennessee, through eastern Tennessee, also into the Gulf states, and even right here at home in North Carolina and Virginia, we do have a couple of active wildfires, one north of Charlotte and one in central parts of the state, just south of Charlottesville. Now, good news is for us, our smoke forecast will show you that we are not going to really see any impacts from this potential of seeing those wildfires across the area. Here's a look at the upcoming smoke forecast across the U.S. And you can see a lot of that smoke is really concentrated near the Pacific Northwest into parts of southern and southeastern Canada. But for the East Coast, we are okay. It's really going to be, again, the southern portions of the U.S. from Texas through Louisiana. But specifically, my concern is around Portland, near Billings, Montana, and then near Las Vegas and Fresno as those wildfires continue to burn. Now, one of the most active volcanoes in the world is erupting once again and putting on a show. Take a look. The U.S. Geological Survey says Mount Kilauea in Hawaii erupted again on Friday. This eruption was contained within the summit's craters, but lava was still flowing well into the early hours of Saturday morning. Kilauea has been erupting on and off since late December, right around Christmas, and this is the 31st, yes, 31st episode recorded since then. Most of the eruptions have lasted, though, for a day or less. I mean, just look at how far the lava is shooting up. And again, still watching as we can maybe possibly see another eruption going on into the rest of August and into September. We're going to take a quick break, and coming up in 2 minutes, I'll have an outlook for the work week here at Hampton Roads and when our fall feeling will return. Plus, I'll have a look at the track of Katrina that started as Tropical Storm Katrina in the Bahamas this week 20 years ago. Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk more about what to expect for the work week we have upcoming. Today will be a very typical August day for us. It's going to be the rest of the week where we start to see those temperatures plummet, but in a great way. It's not going to be freezing cold. It actually will be very comfortable for this time of year, feeling more like October or even into parts of late September than it should for late August. Right now, from your Thompson Creek Window Company sky view, you can see that we have a lot of sunshine ongoing here in downtown Norfolk. Right now, temperatures are in the middle 70s, and it feels just like it, but it is fairly humid. Dew point temperatures are in the upper 60s at the moment. Winds west 10 miles per hour, but those dew point temperatures making it feel like a late summer day because the higher the dew point temperature, the higher the moisture content, so the higher the humidity. For your Monday morning, area-wide, we're seeing temperatures in the middle 60s like Melfa, but that's a very much an outlying number. The rest of the area in the lower 70s to the upper 70s. 77 now in Elizabeth City, 74 in Newport News, 73 in Petersburg, 74 in Ahoskie, and 73 now in Roanoke Rapids. So a nice day, but it is just humid. When you have temperatures in the upper 60s, lower 70s, it's kind of those temperatures for dew points where you kind of have to have the AC cranking just to give you a little bit of some cooler air, just because it does feel sticky or humid outside. Right now, radar very quiet at the moment. Not seeing any rain. We had a few passing clouds overnight. We could have gotten a sprinkle, but a lot of that rain fell apart as it crossed over I-95. Here's a look at what's happening at the surface. We have this low pressure system. This low pressure system actually rolled through just offshore the Outer Banks yesterday morning. This brought us the cloud cover for Sunday. It also brought us some showers for the Outer Banks yesterday. That's well to see. Now we have this cold front. This front, as you can see behind it, ushering in that drier air to the east of it, just ahead of that front. That's where we're still seeing the humidity still on the rise. But after we get this front through, it will drop our temperatures and drop our humidity. This kind of signifies that change in the weather pattern. Usually for summertime, we don't get strong cold fronts like this. It's usually a very stable and hot, humid pattern, with temperatures in the 80s and 90s consistently with high humidity. But when you have a cold front like this rolling through, this brings down the humidity, it brings down those temperatures, and this to me shows that we're entering meteorological fall, which does start on Monday, September the 1st. And so fall cold fronts will become more common as we enter into September. But what the good news is about this front specifically is that it's a very dry front, meaning that it's not producing much rain, even cloud cover ahead of it. Fall also is our secondary severe weather season, and so when we have fall cold fronts, we also have to be aware that we may get severe thunderstorms, even the potential for maybe some isolated tornadoes as we get through September, October, into early November. So it is the first day of school today for my friends who are out and about, and this morning we started off in the middle 70s for those going to school at 8 a.m. Through midday, we'll be in the lower 80s, and we'll have a lot of sunshine. By 3 p.m., we're going to stay in the lower to middle 80s. Our average high temperature for this time of year is around 86 degrees. And so it's going to be a beautiful day for us, right near normal. I hope that everyone who's going back to school today in Newport News, Virginia Beach, and Suffolk, I hope that you all have a fantastic start to the school year. Let's talk more about what's going on here locally in terms of this front. This front will actually push in some cloud cover later on tonight. This is around 9:30 to 10 p.m. We also could see a sprinkle or two being squeezed out from this front as well. Very low chance, passing shower, may dump maybe some light to moderate rainfall, but it will quickly move out of the way, leaving us with mostly cloudy skies for your Tuesday morning and temperatures in the middle 60s to the middle 70s. But I want you all to pay attention to the wind direction. This is how you kind of become our weather watchers and honorary meteorologists, is that when winds change direction and come from the north, those north winds actually pull in cooler, drier air. And that cooler, drier air is going to be settling into Hampton Roads and northeastern North Carolina as we get into the midweek. And you'll notice that with our humidity levels dropping. Dew point temperatures drop, that means the moisture content has dropped, which means that the humidity is also falling. So comfortable dew point temperatures from Tuesday, Wednesday, even into Thursday. We may be in that pleasant range for Thursday afternoon. We might see a spike in the humidity on Friday before getting into Labor Day weekend, where we're right back into that comfortable range. That's why it's going to feel like fall. Typically for a late August day, we should be somewhere in the humid to possibly lowly excessive range, so 60s and 70s for dew point temperatures. That gives everything that fall, that summer feel when you're kind of panting. It feels like you're sweating, but it's not really helping. That is why. So when you have those comfortable, pleasant dew point temperatures, that's why it feels so crisp outside. So tomorrow, it's going to be a mostly cloudy to partly sunny day. Temperatures will be in the lower 70s to start off the day, upper 60s inland. By the afternoon, we're going to make it to the upper 70s and lower 80s. We'll continue with some cloud cover through 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And over the next 10 days, you'll notice that we're going to stay in the upper 70s across the area from now through the end of August, which is Sunday, September 1st, which is Labor Day, and of course the beginning of the new month, and then heading into the first week of September. Upper 70s, maybe a couple places hitting the lower 80s, but our average high temperature for this time of year is around 85 to 86 degrees. So we're going to be right below that by about 5 degrees at least for the next 10 days. It will feel fabulous outside. I'm super excited for this. I'm a fall baby. This is my jam right here. Middle 70s, upper 70s. This is the stuff I live for here across Hampton Roads. Let's talk about the tropics though. This week, as we get into the end of August, this is when Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans. So Hurricane Katrina started around late August, and then formed into a tropical storm around the Bahamas. It actually made landfall as that tropical storm there in parts of southern Florida, and then emerged into the Gulf. Once it emerged into the Gulf, it had really warm waters to work with. You can see it rapidly intensifying from a hurricane around Category 2 status to a Category 5 storm by the time it headed into the central Gulf, and then made that turn towards the north. Now, there's a misconception. A lot of people think that Hurricane Katrina made landfall as a Category 5 storm. It did not. It actually made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane, but because Katrina was so large, the impacts were massive. And so Hurricane Katrina made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane on August 29th, 2005, which is 20 years ago this week. And so that's why you'll probably be seeing a lot of documentaries being put out about Katrina's anniversary. And the reason why Katrina was so devastating is because the levees failed, and so all the water rushed into New Orleans. And for those who don't know, the geographic differences between New Orleans and a lot of other major cities is that New Orleans is below sea level, and so all that water just rushed in. There's nowhere to really go, and of course the Superdome being one of the places where people try to seek refuge. And if you haven't been to New Orleans at all, or in the past 10 years, people are still struggling from the effects of Katrina. So a lot to be learned about this hurricane, what not to do, and how to keep people safe in the midst of hurricane season, especially areas that are prone to tropical systems around the Gulf and also around the Western Atlantic, like here in Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina. We barely escaped Hurricane Aaron. At Hurricane Aaron's closest, we were about 175 to 200 miles away, right around the Outer Banks. We had a very close call, and thankfully we were okay, but this is just a reminder that this is the time of year where these hurricanes can get their most strength because we have really warm waters ongoing here for Katrina. So let's take this graphic full just so you can see the full timeline of what's going on from the track of Katrina, as it formed from a tropical depression there in the Bahamas to a tropical storm, and then still over land in parts of southern Mississippi. It still was a Category 1 hurricane there and a depression in northern Mississippi before becoming a tropical storm in northern Mississippi before becoming a depression as well there here across parts of the central U.S., so something to keep in mind. But again, we'll continue to talk about Katrina as that anniversary Katrina is coming up this week. But here in Hampton Roads, no impacts to from any tropical systems here over the next 5 to 7 days. It actually will be gorgeous. Middle 60s now to upper 70s by the middle of the week. We'll have a lot of sunshine, maybe some low-end rain chances for Labor Day weekend, but otherwise gorgeous. Now, it's been a warmer and clearer start to the work week, and temperatures are going to take a dip soon, so make sure to keep up for the outlook on 13newsnow.com and 13 News Now Plus. Remember, you can always get the latest news, traffic, and weather on the go with the 13 News Now app. You can scan the QR code on your screen to download the app. It's free on the App Store and on Google Play. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Weather Desk for the top weather headlines here across Hampton Roads, which is southeastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina, across the country and across the world. Of course, we'll be keeping an update on the tropics for you here at 13 News Now. If anything forms, again, you can find us online at 13newsnow.com or on here on 13 News Now Plus. I'll be back here tomorrow to talk more about what to expect in terms of our weather headlines. Again, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson for 13 News Now. Have a fantastic Monday.